Oh, gnarly, dude. Looks like you just went overboard. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Overboard. And I'm your host, Anthony.
And I'm your host, Jenny. And today we are just on a weird vibe. We're all super tired, super fatigued. And you know when you just get so overtired that you get to the point where you're loopy and you just start questioning everything, or like nothing that you say really makes sense?
It's like thinking out loud, but not with any evidence or coherent sentences. You know, it's kind of overthink things, maybe think a little too far into things.
That's kind of where we're all at right now, or at least me and Anthony are. And so we figured we would just talk to you guys about some of the stuff that we've been talking about. And it's going to sound super freaking weird. So just stay with us. So
because we're going overboard this time.
We're going insane is what's happening. About to jump ship. But yeah, so the first thing I was talking about was animals talking. And where I was going with this was, I feel like everybody has a thought like, do animals communicate with each other? And then I just started thinking deeper into it, and I was like, do you think animals are like humans in that, like, if you're from a different area or if you're from a different species, what do you call that? Ethnicity?
I don't know, like a family or not a family, or it'd be like a species. Like if you have a bird, right? Like, are you saying like if you have a bird from like,
well, I was saying like
Texas, or like a bird
as
from
humans,
an island?
people from different places have different languages, and I can't understand somebody that speaks another language. So I wonder if we say that animals can communicate with each other, can they all communicate with each other, or is it just like specific species or like animals within a specific area? Like, do they talk different languages?
Like, are you saying like, could a dog communicate with a cat? Like,
Yeah.
speak with a cat?
Or is it just cats can talk to cats and dogs can talk to dogs? Or can they all talk to each other?
Or can they not talk to each other at all?
Or do they like know that the other thing is talking but don't understand it like humans do when you speak a different language? So it's like, I don't know. I just went way too far into thinking about it, and I was
back to my thing, like, so like if a bird tries to communicate with like a chipmunk or something, like, they're aware of each other, right? They know each other, but like, do they have a way to communicate with each other, or is it just like everybody stays in their own lane?
And do they communicate with us? Do you think animals try to communicate with us?
Dude, my little Chip definitely was trying to freaking communicate with me for sure.
At our old house, Anthony had this chipmunk.
I would sit out on the porch, and it would come out of its little hole around like what, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, on the spot, like on the dot. Like, I'd go sit out there. He'd come right up, and I would feed it pistachios. I don't really know if you're supposed to feed chipmunks pistachios, but
he did.
Yeah, and he'd just hang out with me, and he'd run up to me and go, but but the days that I wouldn't be out there, I could hear him doing his little chirp, which typically when a chipmunk does its warning chirp, or does a chirp, it's as a warning to other chipmunks. But he would literally chirp up until the point where and then I'd come outside, and then he'd run up to me, and I'd give him some little snacks. So maybe he was trying to communicate with me.
He was talking. He was talking to you.
Maybe there was a warning, a call going on. I don't know.
Maybe he was warning
saying,
them to,
yo, I'm starving, boy. Where that food at?
Yeah. I don't know. I just went way too far into thinking about it, and I don't know. Like, what if we could talk to animals? Wouldn't that be like crazy?
Like, or do you mean like? Because we do talk to animals.
No, I mean like they could talk back and we could understand them.
I think society would be very different.
We'd be talking animals. Would
Or
they have a
probably kill 'em all.
currency? If they could talk, would they become like human? Like, would they have the same rights as humans?
Probably, but I don't know. Like, I feel like if animals could talk, like,
Or would they have do you think if animals could talk, would they have like their own like country? They would like leave us humans and just like go.
they'd have to be like
Migrate
pretty
together.
intelligent at that point. And honestly, I don't think so, because like some animals can't survive outside of their certain ecosystems.
True.
Some can, but like,
They can adapt.
but
Adapt or die.
that'd be weird, dude. Like a horse just is like, yo, what up, cub? And you're like, hey, you mind if I jump on your back there, horse? And he's just like, no. Like, what are we doing at that point?
No, he's like, mind if I jump on your back?
And yeah, like that's what would be happening, dude. Like the dog was like, you go take your dog for a walk. The dog's like, hey man, you mind if I pull you around on the leash for a while?
Can you imagine? And then I also started thinking, and I was like, so there's like discussion about aliens. It's like been a discussion for a while, and whether they're real or not. And in a past podcast, we were talking about Antarctica and the conspiracy theories that go along with Antarctica and what they're hiding down there. And we were talking about maybe there's some sort of unknown species down there. And then I was thinking, like, what if we were the aliens? What if, like, all this time we've been waiting for aliens to come, and what if we're the aliens and whatever's in Antarctica is like the humans, or like the natural,
like humans are the aliens, and like we somehow pushed the natural,
what do you call that, habitat?
the natural human, or whatever the ancient humans were, we pushed them to Antarctica.
Yeah, and that's what we're keeping
something
underground.
I don't know about that, but I mean, I think if anything, like aliens still would be walking among us.
But what if that's what these UFOs and stuff that people are seeing is? Or what if we look like aliens? You know what I mean? Like what we're keeping in Antarctica, we look like because we adapted into them.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
I don't know.
Like a body snatchers kind of thing, like where like we assumed the form. Oh, dude.
Yeah,
okay.
like
so I was thinking about this though. Hold on. This ties into it though, but like, so fungi, like funguses, like mushrooms and stuff, a lot of fungus has the same like electrical connections that the brain has. And so I was thinking, like, what if like the cause for like human evolutions was like some foreign like fungus infected like primate brains or something, or like, you know what I'm saying?
No.
You get what I'm saying? Like somehow the fungus, like a spore, got in to like
our head
or something,
and that's
right?
what our brains are.
Yeah,
our brains are just fungus.
Or no, not even like that. Yeah, but like it took over what is our brain because they're similar, like electronical signals, certain electronic signals. Like, what if, like, almost like a parasite? How a parasite would infect your body? Like,
would it affect how we think, or is it just?
It's the reason for our sentience. That's what I'm saying. Like that, like. It is the reason we evolved into humans, like being infected by a fungus.
So, like, we'd be animals if it didn't infect. Like, we think because the way we think is because it infected us.
Yeah.
So before we would not be as smart.
Well, I'm saying
potentially?
like primates, right? Like if the idea is that we evolved from primates millions and millions of years ago,
Mm-hmm.
my idea is that some point, like somehow the brain got infected with like a mushroom spore, which caused growth, and then eventually it adapted in that environment somehow. I don't know how this happened, and science people,
And
it's
that's
probably
how
highly illogical, but yeah,
and that's how animals evolved to be
right,
humans.
right.
Oh, okay. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense.
Or everything's a fungus, and everything that has a brain is a fungus. Like the brain is just
Honestly,
a fungus.
the brain looks like a fungus,
It does. It looks like a fungus.
especially when a dead brain.
A wet fungus. Just a wet, juicy fungus.
Nasty. Well, like, because mushrooms, they're a type of fungus, right?
Yeah, mushrooms are fungus, dude.
Can't even think straight right now. Mushrooms are a type of fungus, and people eat them to get high or to hallucinate, I guess. So what if what you're saying is true and our brains got infected, like we're just saying it's true and theoretically, and we were all taking, if we all took mushrooms, what if taking mushrooms is what we should be thinking like? Like, what if what people see when they take mushrooms is what is actually happening? What is actually happening? And then what we're...
I mean, that's a theory. Like they think like some people think that like psychedelics distorts the brain in such a way that you start to see the natural
like state of
actual things. So that's why, like, I guess like with shrooms or like mushrooms or acid, like people would say like things are moving and morphing and you know, objects are expanding and shrinking and constantly flowing, which would make sense because like what we know of like earth frequencies and the frequency of the universe is like it's all waves, right? Like we're all operating on a frequency, and that would make sense for everything to change and to morph. So yeah, the idea is that like shrooms and acid and psychedelics in general
a real thing.
Allow it basically removes
what
the brain
does
like,
to the frequencies.
Yeah, how the brain rearranges the frequencies so that we see stable stuff.
But then when you take those, you actually see the movement that is
right.
It's actually doing.
Which is kind of freaky.
It's really freaky. I was watching a YouTube video the other day of some artists, and they were talking about how different people see different colors and stuff, or how they believe that there are more colors than just what
we have on like the ultraviolet spectrum.
Yeah. And my thought was, you know how from a young age we're taught like the grass, somebody points at the grass and you say what? You say it's green. And that's what you're taught. And so then from then on, you associate everything that you see that is the color of grass as green. But what if you see the color of grass differently than I see the color of grass? So what if you see a completely different color than I do, but we both call it green because that's what we've always associated it as? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So then, like, your color green could be a completely different color than mine, but whenever we see anything green, we were taught that it was green.
Like the object itself is supposed to be green, so we don't like associate the color. So we just know based off what the object, like, because it's grass, it's supposed to be green, even though I could be seeing the grass as orange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I could be seeing it as blue or something. But then anything else that I see that is the color of grass, I would associate. Because, like, every color that I would see, I don't know how to explain this. It makes sense in my head, but I don't know how to get it verbally out to make sense to, like, you. So, like, the color blue, I'm looking at the sky right now. I would say that's blue. Anything else that I see that is the color blue, or is the color of the sky, I would call blue, even though to me. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think you're losing yourself
No,
there.
I am. Because even though because I've always associated the color of the sky as blue, and any other color that is the color of the sky as blue, because that's what I've been taught. But I don't see, like, I could not see blue. Like, me and you, my definition of blue or like what I think is blue could be a completely different color as what you think is blue, could be a completely different color as what mom sees as blue. But when we all look at the same object, we'll all say it's blue, even though we're all saying different colors.
Yeah, I don't know about that, because, like, if that would be if people were all seeing, like, different color,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't blue, I feel like if what you're saying would be the case, then you wouldn't be able to look at, like, I don't know, like, what is something that's like a blueberry, right? Like, and you wouldn't be able to say that that's blue because it's the same color as the sky.
What do you mean?
Like, if you're saying, like, people see different, but
I always associated the color of the sky as blue.
but
so
if
I'm
you
going to
saw,
associate the color. So everything that I see the same, everything that is. Oh my gosh, I can't even explain.
Dude, you sound
this.
like you.
It makes so much sense in my head.
Because, like, okay, so, like, if you see the sky as blue and I see the sky as orange,
but then you would see.
I'm not going to associate anything other than the sky as orange.
No, you would associate everything that you see that is the same color as the sky for you as orange. Does that make sense? So, like, if I see a blueberry and I see the sky and I see the water, they're all going to be the same color.
Right.
So they're all going to be blue to me, even though I'm seeing it as orange.
But, like, but if you're seeing it as orange and you're calling it blue, and then someone else comes up to you and says,
I'm seeing orange, but I'm calling it blue because that's what I've been taught. I've been taught that the color of the sky is blue, and thus everything that I see that is the color of the sky is blue, even though I'm seeing orange.
But, like, okay, so what happens when you see an orange then?
Well, I'll see a different color.
Is it
so
blue?
Then no, I'll see a different color, but since I've always associated it as that color, as, like, whatever color I see it as. Oh my gosh, I'm, like, getting mixed up in my
I think we need to stop with this one because we're going to have a brain aneurysm.
No, but it makes so much sense. You just have to really think about it. Because, like, everything you would see would be a different color than what somebody else would see, but due to basic standards of what we're taught when we see a rainbow or something, and the structure of a rainbow, you're going to be able to say, like, that's that color, that's that color, that's that color. Even though we're all seeing it as different colors. But we've always been taught that what we're looking at is, like, blue. You know what I mean?
No, dog. No, I do not know what you mean at all.
If anybody is listening to this right now and understands what I'm saying, please go to our Instagram and comment, because it makes so much sense to me. Anthony's not getting it, though.
So one of the next things we were talking about was cars, and specifically the fact that cars run on oil. Now, like, I'm not going to sit here and claim to know, like, I know anything about combustion, but I feel like, like, why did we just choose oil? Like, do cars only run on oil because that is the course of like combustion that we pursued in the course of fuel? Or would have we been able to harness like literally anything else to
Well, now they have cars that are
do
running on
clean?
electricity.
Right.
So it's like, how many other elements can it run on? And
Right,
are we
like-
just using oil because that's the first thing that we found that it runs on, I guess?
And then like capitalism just carried that on, because they made this. There was this one guy and he made a fully running like car, and it runs off water.
Yeah.
And it takes less components to like run the car than it does like an oil car, and it was weird. So why, I don't know, cars running on oil, is there anything else that they could run, or that cars could run on, right?
Like, what if cars
Like
could
steam,
just...
I mean, obviously steam power and electricity, but like, could you like blend up a tree or something?
blend up a tree? Oh my gosh.
I don't know.
Well, I just feel like, because, like, could it run on air potentially?
Could
Is
it
that
run on
possible?
high fructose corn syrup?
Because we all know that like oil pollutes the earth. But then that brings another whole topic to the point of waste, like toxic waste. If we go way back to like the beginning of time, we didn't have all these like super toxic like plastics and all this stuff. And it's like, how did we create something like things that are so toxic to the earth and to like human health from
Like it's
the
originally
earth
made from the
itself?
earth.
Yeah, like it's made from the earth. So where, like, how did it become so toxic?
Right.
Like, obviously the earth has poisonous like plants and things on it, but it's like, how are we
able to like transform the earth's gifts
like good
into
things
a toxic substance that the
can
earth
destroy earth?
doesn't even recognize anymore, like plastic, right? Like it takes a long time for plastic to degrade.
But how, like, where did it come? Like, how
Like-
did we make it? And like chemicals weren't a thing back then. So how did we make chemicals? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like what?
Dude, I don't even know, man. Like how
when
do
you think
make...
about that, it just like blows your mind. Like, what did we take to make from the earth to make a chemical? I'm sure there's some like scientists out there that knows these answers, but like if you just think about it, it's like, how did we create something like things so toxic to the earth and ourselves out of something that was originally good?
like in natural, like, and we can sit here and say like synthetic stuff isn't natural because it doesn't naturally occur on Earth.
But it came from Earth.
But if it came from Earth, it
is natural.
naturally occurs on Earth because we created it. Like
I don't know.
we are a natural part, like humans are a natural part of the Earth. And we came from Earth, therefore what we create is technically natural to humans.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, yeah. That's just weird though. Cause like even oil, like in its most base form, like before they pull it out of the ground, is in a pocket that's not necessarily harmful to Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's on a deep underground well. But then as soon as we transform it into whatever,
That's
it's
another
harmful.
question. Where the hell does oil come from? And why do we have so much of it? Like,
if you think back to elementary school, they taught us that that came from the bones of like dinosaurs and stuff and decayed
dead bodies,
dead animals, and
that's kind of scary.
like
so then
decayed,
that begs the question, like, are where the oil mines at where a bunch of bodies or things were buried
Decomposed.
at. Like, were they all buried in like a ditch somewhere, and then or do when you die and decompose, it just like goes through the rock system, the soil system, and then collect together? You know what I mean?
Dude, I don't know. Maybe we're just dumb.
Probably. There's probably somebody listening to this that's like super smart and
Like,
oh my
geez.
god.
Someone needs to take these kids back to school.
Literally. But like on that topic, like how did we create internet and TV? Like obviously there is a scientific reason behind it, and like, you know, the particles move through the air and whatever, electricity, but it's like, how? Like, I am able to talk to somebody all the way across the country and hear them perfectly as if they're speaking right next to me, and it just doesn't make sense how that travels through the air to me and I hear them in the exact same voice that they're saying it. And even like the creation of cameras, like I'm a photographer and I understand like how like DSLRs came about, but I don't understand how film cameras came about, because even with the mirror imprint onto the paper, it's just like, how did somebody learn to develop that, you know?
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. I wonder if it was like had something to do with like how when you like stare into the sun or into a light, you know?
Well, that makes sense for like the cameras, because what the original camera was, it's like a mirror, and then the light hits it, and then it ingrains into a super sensitive paper, and that's what you
how
get.
it happens, yeah. So.
But with digital cameras, it's completely different, and it's like, how does that? How do you get a picture?
And then it just like gets imprinted on a SD card.
Yeah, and that,
dude, yeah, that's weird. I didn't even think about, because like, yeah, like it hits the back of the camera, right? And then somehow it's got to be converted into just like electronical
pixels
energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pixels. But which goes into like a quartz SD card. SD cards are.
But I feel like that even makes more sense than how we got television and phones and stuff, because I mean the original phones with the whole wire thing, that makes somewhat sense because you're transferring vibrations and stuff. But now we can just do it wirelessly, and it just doesn't make sense to me how like everybody
it travels through the air.
How it can travel through the air and like not lose quality.
Especially with like how many people have phones and are making calls at a
how do they not cross and like mesh, and then you get like shit on your TV, you know?
I don't know, dude. Yeah, I never really thought about it that deep, because like the airways are constantly just like going crazy with signals. Like one of my friends works on like telecom towers and stuff. Mm-hmm. And like he says like there are some towers that are so powerful that they can't even climb them until they power the tower down. Because they can die, yeah. And it kills like most of the stuff around it. Yeah, how is there not a ton of interference? Can you just send an electrical wave, like an electrical signal through the air, and then it gets transmitted like?
I just don't understand how it goes through the air.
Yeah, does it like, because like, yeah, there's going to be like birds, there's going to be things that like fly through that direct path, right?
Yeah. Like, and I've like learned about this whole thing about how TV came about and how they did it, and it still doesn't even make sense when you really, really start to think about it, because
it's witchcraft. Like,
obviously, like you're reading it and it makes sense, but then you really think about it and you're like, okay, but how do they go through the air? How are we all watching the exact same thing?
And it's weird too, because like humans have been on the face of the earth for hundreds of thousands of years. Mm-hmm. Maybe not like Homo sapiens, but like humans have been like, so like all this stuff has been on the earth, you know, like oil, electronical signals, quartz to create like SD cards and all the microchips and stuff that we have, and all, like it's all been on the face of this planet for a long ass time. And in the last 120 years, we just finally figured out how to use all this stuff.
When you really start to think about basically anything, it all just becomes like a question. Like how?
Right. Like, in like, what's next? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
think of all the things we have, and like, we're just now like discovering, like, in the last 120 years, we've discovered like new physics, new all this stuff. 100 years from now, what happens? Because that means we've finally have had 200 years, not even 200 years, like, but like, what happens like 200 years from now when we've had 200 years of all this high tech, crazy technology that we have right now, like our laptop, right? Like our phones, our video games, all that stuff. Like, what possibly could come next? Like, are we going to atrophy because we've reached our limits? Or are we going to find some way to turn like solid air into edible food?
Or are we going to finally figure out how to do teleportation of physical beings?
I don't know about teleportation.
But you think that we'll learn how to make food out of thin air, but you don't believe in teleportation?
Okay, yeah, I guess if we were making food out of thin air,
we'd have to know how to.
Okay, but hold up. I was thinking about time travel the other day because I've been watching a lot of TV shows about time travel, and I was thinking, like, I don't think it's actually possible.
No, probably not.
No, like there's a lot of like scientists and astro quantum physics that think it's possible because of like entanglement, but I don't think it's possible, because what you're talking about when you are talking at least organic travel, you know, like when you're talking about a human traveling through time, that means like somehow you have to create something that literally changes and reverts all the cells that have ever grown on anything, even yourself, like, or like someone next to you, right? Like, if I travel back to 1996 to go see myself get birthed, right?
Yeah.
Right. I somehow have to create a machine that can keep my cells in the current state that they are, yet change all the atoms and turn back the dial and change all these atoms, all these cells that would make up like my mom, right? Like our mom. I would have to somehow, that machine would have to turn them back into a complete, whatever the old configuration, cellular atomic configuration.
Well, then
is like, that would be way too hard to do.
But then there's another conspiracy theory, I guess, if you want to call it. I was reading on Twitter actually the other day, and tweet was something about deja vu, and I went through the comments on it, the replies, and somebody was like, well, I've heard that deja vu is when the you of an alternate universe is doing the exact same thing that you're doing at the exact same time, and that's why you feel like you've done it before.
So it's like the multiverse theory.
Yeah.
Like,
so then it's like, with that theory, it would be time traveling would be considered an alternate universe. You're on an alternate universe that's like where there's the exact same thing, like we're all the exact same people, but they're a couple years ahead of us or whatever. Like, there was a movie I was watching the other day. I can't remember what it was called. This girl lived in this house, and then she moved out, and she left a note in the mailbox to have the new person that lived there send her mail to her new address. The new person that lived there moved in, and through communicating through this mailbox, they realized that the guy was 4 years behind her. So she was in 2006 and he was in 2002 or something. And
she left a letter for him,
And so they
he
were
got it in the past.
yeah, and he got it in the past, and so they were communicating through this mailbox, and it was the exact same day in the future, but 4 years earlier.
That's weird. Yeah.
And so they were communicating through this mailbox, talking about it, and they had actually met each other in the past. Like in her past, they had met each other already. But then his present, he was just meeting her in person. So it was like weird. I don't know, but it's just like with that, I guess it makes more sense than trying to the atom theory.
Well, that's literally physically what has to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's to get into another point of time, unless you can somehow like cookie cut yourself out of our space-time universal reality and jump it.
Oh, it's called the Lake House. That's what the movie is.
Assuming the multiverse theory is like true or holds true, like you would have to create a machine that literally cuts you out of this existence, put you into another existence where you most likely exist, but in where things would be similar enough, but there's still going to be one thing that's different that's not true.
Would there though?
Yeah, because the idea of the multiverse theory is like every option and every decision that could ever been made, like there's not multiple not multiple universe where the same thing happens. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but it could be.
Like there would have to be one thing different. Like, so like I would hop into another universe, but the smallest deviation would be like that maybe a guy named Ford didn't create figure out how to make assembly line and create Ford cars. Like maybe his name was like Johnson.
Okay.
And now we have Johnson cars, right? Like,
yeah.
Like that's kind of like how the multiverse theory is. Like the deviations might be very similar or is so minuscule, like, but there would still be a deviation from what your reality is. So then at that point, you're not even time traveling. You're just jumping into another universe at a different point in time. I mean, I guess you're time traveling, but you're not time traveling in the sense that you're staying in the same universal reality that you've existed in thus far, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like that's what I say. Like, if there is one universe and time travel is somehow magically real, which I mean, I'm not gonna say it's not, because like I said, 200 years from now, we've only had 50 years with like pretty decent computer technology, maybe, right? Like we're gonna be so far ahead. So I'm not going to rule time travel out, but I still think like you would literally have to have something, and it would have to change the atomic makeup in revert. It would have to predict the original atomic makeup of all universal matter, and it would have to be powerful enough to do that. And that's why I don't think that it's going to exist, because to have something that can manipulate all universal matter, it would literally take all the power of the universe. It would probably take more power than the universe itself. Right? Like, but I don't know. I don't know about that.
Oh, I just came up with a way to try to explain the color thing to you.
Oh, God.
Maybe, if it works. Colorblind people.
Yeah.
Some of them see different shades of gray. But if you ask them what color, like to separate them into blue, red, orange, yellow, they can do it, even though they only see colors of gray. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but like not everybody that's colorblind just sees gray. Like some people, like I said, like, so I knew a guy who, and that's where I got the orange thing from. He sees the color green as orange.
Yeah.
So the grass is orange. He knows it's green because people tell him it's green. But visually, what he experiences is orange color.
How does he know it's orange color, though?
Because somebody told him that. Oh.
Exactly. Like, how does he know it's orange if he doesn't know what orange looks like? That's what I'm trying to say. Like, you see, like, who knows if he, like, he's saying he sees a different color, but how does he know he's seeing a different color?
Someone would have to tell him at some point.
But how would somebody else know that he's not seeing the same color as them?
Well, they might say like, hey, what color is this? And he'd be like, it's orange. So like,
but does he see everything that's green as orange?
Orange, yeah.
Then
different shades of orange too. So it's like, but it's like he still sees orange as orange.
Oh, well, so he doesn't see anything as green.
He doesn't see green.
Well, that's different.
That's still colorblind. That's what colorblindness is. Colorblindness is like not being able to see one or more colors.
Okay, but that's like...
Now, if you're talking like black and white, like a dog, that's a whole another thing. But like...
But that's the thing. He knows he is seeing... He can only see that one color because somebody else is telling him it's green, and he knows that what the color he's been told is orange. Like, since he already sees stuff that we're told is orange as orange, and he sees green as orange, he obviously knows that he's seeing different. But if you're not told, like, if you see everything as a different color, that wouldn't be the case.
Oh yeah, like if you were never told what?
Well, I mean, if you saw all colors as different, if you see two colors as the same, that's completely different than seeing all different colors. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, we're not gonna go on.
Yeah, I don't know. That hurts my brain.
But it makes sense to me, because like colorblind people that do see the shades of gray can tell you what the colors are. I don't know. We're just gonna finish up this episode because I feel like we're really just going off topic and kind of not anywhere near where we should be.
Our brain hurts.
But thank you everyone for tuning in and listening to us ramble on this entire podcast.
Yeah, hopefully your day is more focused and
than ours is.
Yeah, and more energetic than ours is. And yeah, if you kind of are picking up what we're putting down here, like hit us up.
Yeah, and if you guys have anything where you think too far into it, I love to hear them. So go to our Instagram. It's Overboard X Podcast. That's Overboard, the letter X podcast. And let us know what you guys think too much about, because it's really fun to hear about. And yeah, I think that's it for this one. So we will see you next time.
See ya. We'll get to steadier waters eventually.